Welcome back to One Foot In. I'm Ohana. He's Winn. Yes, it's a different setup today.
It's not our fault.
It's not our fault. There's some, let's call it technical difficulties. It wasn't really technical.
Some casual.
Some logistical issues. But that's okay because, you know, a home is not a home is where your heart is. Home is where the people are. And so this is our home for today.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay that it's a little different. You get a different angle of us. Honestly, some would say you're blessed. But
At least you get to see us.
at least you get to see us on like one previous episode.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, that's not really what matters. What matters is the discussions that we'll be having today after another weekend of college football where we saw some interesting games, we saw some upsets, we saw some undefeated conference leaders fall.
We saw some locks miss.
We saw some locks miss once again. We saw some 5-5 teams perhaps be better than the record. Let's get into it right away with the main segment, which I kind of teased there with an undefeated BYU losing to Kansas 17-13. And this is obviously a hurtful one for both of us because we've championed the BYU Cougars for this entire season, essentially. Jake Retzlaff, the BYU Jew, that whole team, they were undefeated. We've argued for them against criticism about the conference and the opponents that they play. And yet here they are with a loss against Kansas.
Well, it's tough for a couple things. I'll break down the game in a second, but I do want to start with kind of what you're saying, which is the fact that Kansas was kind of a scare team. Now, it doesn't really make sense because they've been terrible all season. I wrote an article, shout out, of a listicle of some of the most disappointing CFB teams, football teams, and Kansas was on that list. And you're like, well, why? Well, it's because Daniels, their quarterback, was last year in the Heisman conversation, and leading up to this season was also in that conversation. And then lost 5 or 6 straight games, not pretty poorly.
Pretty bad.
Then they started to pick it up. They started to roll. They've never really. BYU and Kansas, definitely some different kind of dynamics of teams in the way it goes. Man, it's kind of so. Yes, coming into the game, it was a bit of a scare game, but I still, and it hurts us because we want BYU to do well.
Yeah.
Not just because we have a personal attachment to them. Like, we don't. We're not from anywhere near there. We have no. Dude, I hate Utah. I've been on the record saying I hate Utah. I don't like the state of Utah at all, except the national park. Shout out. We wanted BYU to be well, and I'm speaking for you here too, but because they bring this fun element to the game, right?
Yeah.
The program is cool.
Yep.
They've got, Retzlaff leading the helm. We like their head coach. He comes in.
They're kind of unexpected in the Big 12.
Yeah, exactly. No one was really talking about them. They came out. They've played well.
Yeah.
Then last week against Utah was scary.
It was scary.
Very scary.
That was your lock.
Was my lock. Missed. Had to watch that in a bar in Austin. That hurt. But the thought process was that's a road game against a rival that they really kind of barely pulled out at the end. Yeah. They'll get it back. Kansas is a good team. They'll probably play them well, but they'll get it back and win here. And now to the game.
Yeah.
BYU was just kind of flat the whole time. Like,
they were.
Kansas was up 7-0 at the beginning of the first quarter, or not at the beginning, but in the first quarter. When you look at their stats, like BYU outgained Kansas. There's nothing on there that would jump out to you and be like a glaring issue, other than they just couldn't really get the offense rolling exactly how they wanted to. And the most important play of the game comes at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas is at midfield. They're set up in a quarterback position, and then they do the QB punt. Like the thing that some teams do, pull out very rarely. As a way to kind of pin a team deep.
Yeah.
It hits a BYU player's helmet, this punt. He's not even aware that the ball is being punted. It hits him in the helmet. Another BYU player goes to get it. He doesn't get it. Kansas falls on it on the 2-yard line. Yep. And they score to go ahead and win. And then they win the game. And then that's the game. Obviously, there was still a quarter left. They kept BYU from scoring.
BYU had a chance with that final drive.
They did.
And they got to Kansas 15-yard line. It was a 4th and 11, and they just threw it short of the first down, and that was the game at that point. But
and then it was over. And So obviously heartbreak for BYU. I mean, straight up, you got to put more points on the board. What I said last week against Utah is, if you can't play that well against Utah's third-string quarterback, you're gonna have to get things figured out.
Right.
And they didn't.
They didn't.
They didn't. Now, that's the game. Yeah. Now, looking on the bigger scale of things, BYU still, them and Colorado, are the one-loss teams in the Big 12. And
Colorado's 2 losses.
Do they have 2 losses? But there's not another team with 2 losses in the... No, I'm saying in the Big 12 conference.
Big 12
Big 12 conference. So right now, BYU and Colorado, if they both win out their season,
right,
are supposed to be in the Big 12 championship game. So that would still give BYU that foot in. But like we've talked about, we think that Colorado would likely beat BYU in that game. And if you're going to put up 13 points against Kansas, that's probably true. So... now let's zoom back out. We've talked a lot about the playoff look, and I know I'm talking a lot here, but if BYU wins out the season and loses to Colorado in the Big 12 championship game, are they in the playoffs?
So, this is a statement that I'm going to make, and this is what I believe about this team, or what I believe about this team right now. I don't think they're making the playoffs at this point. I don't think they're beating Colorado in the Big 12 championship, and I don't think they're going to get in as a 2-loss team, because I don't think the committee is going to respect a 2-loss Big 12 conference championship loser. I just don't think they will. I think they're going to give those spots, those runner-up spots, to 3-loss SEC teams, or some Big 10 teams. I don't think BYU's making. I think Colorado is the one Big 12 team that's going to get in. Yeah. They're going to win the conference, which is astounding for Colorado. And on Colorado, we've talked about them before, and that's another team that we have championed. And I feel I personally have championed some of their players specifically. I mean, Travis Hunter is easy to champion, and Shadur Sanders is easy to champion now. But I feel like he wasn't earlier, and I was early on that, I suppose you could call it early on it, but I think I was just at the right time on it, and he's been the best quarterback in college football, and so I honestly don't think this is a crazy take. I think Colorado, most games they play, will have the 2 best players on the field. They have the best quarterback in college football, and they have the guy who's arguably the best player in college football. And so even against the upper echelon, now I don't expect them to beat the upper echelon teams because they don't have the overall roster construction, but in a game against the BYU, which has just shown that they lost to Kansas, they only put up 13 points. Colorado is steamrolling teams right now. They just beat Utah by 25, the same Utah team that BYU beat by 2. And yeah, they're peaking at the right time, at least that's what it seems like, and they're dangerous.
I got something kind of scary to say. Maybe not scary, but to point out. So we're over here saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the Big 12 game will be Colorado and BYU. BYU's schedule the rest of the season. Actually, not the rest of the season. They got 2 games left. They go to Arizona State this weekend.
Which is not a given.
Arizona State flattened
Flattened.
Kansas State this weekend, right? Isn't that who they played?
That's who they played.
Do you know who Colorado plays next weekend? Because I do. Or this weekend, sorry. Colorado plays, drum roll please, Kansas.
Which is very interesting.
Which is an interesting game. Now,
I will take Colorado in that.
I would take Colorado in that too, with more convinced than I would. I mean, dude, BYU at Arizona State is a coin flip game, in my opinion.
At this point, yeah.
And then you know what that would mean? That would mean that who's in the Big 12 championship game? Arizona State, most likely. Look, because then BYU would have 2 losses. Arizona State would have 2 losses. Iowa State shouldn't make it, I don't think. Yeah. And Arizona State would have beaten BYU.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, they have the tiebreaker. That would be interesting.
We've said all season the Big 12 is weird.
It is weird. That would be catastrophic for BYU, considering where they were 72 hours ago at this point.
God, catastrophic.
Yeah. Terrible. But that's ultimately, like I said, I think BYU, Arizona State, I don't think it matters. I think Colorado's got this one. I just believe in them fully.
So you have them Big 12 champions?
Yeah.
All right. I like that.
Which is incredible to say, considering where we all thought they were 2 months ago.
Well, and moving on from the Big 12, we got to talk about the SEC.
Yes, we do.
The game of the weekend, I mean, you could argue the game of the weekend.
The going into the weekend, the game of the weekend.
Yeah, the going into the weekend, the game of the weekend, and probably the one with, I don't know, the BYU game has a lot of impact, but
huge ramifications.
Huge ramifications is Georgia, Tennessee. Yeah. Now, we both said, let's talk about what we said going into it first. So you were of the opinion that Georgia was going to get this done.
Yeah.
I said that Tennessee was going to get this done on a condition. That Carson Beck was going to continue playing as he had been playing, right? Because I knew if he goes out there and throws the same interceptions that he had done against Florida and whoever they played the week before that, I don't even remember.
For like 5 straight weeks.
Yeah, for a long time, that Tennessee was going to capitalize on that. And he didn't.
Just didn't.
He didn't. And this was a tight game. Like
it looked like it might be a bad Carson Beck game at the start.
Yeah.
It was 10-0 Tennessee, and he was 4 for 13.
Yeah.
And it was just not clicking at all.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, it wasn't turning it over, but it's like it's not completing it. So
yes. And then Georgia, I think it was 10-0 Tennessee, and then Georgia would finish the game going 31, and Tennessee scoring 7.
Yeah. Well, final score 31-17.
So I mean, I was wrong, but at the same time, when they're not turning the ball over and they're playing the games differently, like they had done against like an Ole Miss, well then they would win that game.
Yeah.
Now, I want to hear what you got to say about this, but from my perspective, I want to say real quick that I'm not surprised that Georgia won this game. I'm not. I am surprised, and this sounds weird, but I am surprised that Tennessee couldn't find a way. And the reason I say that is not because I think that they're a better team than Georgia. It's because of what we talked about, of this is your do-or-die game. And I still think it is. And I don't know what playoff implications are even going to look like anymore right now. I don't know what the SEC looks like anymore right now, because there's still so much that will happen, that will be figured out. I don't think Tennessee played, a horrible game. But 31-7, when you're up 10-0, is not good. It's not good. So, what are your thoughts kind of on this game and the way that it went about? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I picked Georgia to win, so I'm not surprised at the outcome. I talked last week before this game about how, and I've been a Carson Beck critic and a Georgia critic, but I've been a Carson Beck critic for his play.
But rightfully so.
Rightfully so, but I also talked about how it's not all his fault.
Yeah.
It wasn't all his fault, the struggles, and how he hasn't been getting a lot of support from, or a lot relative to what you'd expect from Georgia, compared to some of the years prior, and guys dropping passes, and guys just not making plays, and the defense being gettable, and that was not the case on Saturday, which is why he looked so much more efficient and cleaner. And he threw 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 1. And I think that first touchdown he threw was like, after a bit of a tough start, it's kind of a sigh of relief, and he got to balance and focus, and then it's just like, okay, I can still do it, and it's like, all right, we got it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was huge, because I do think it could have snowballed. But yeah, that was his cleanest overall game in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for Tennessee. And for Georgia, I think this all but guarantees that they'll make the playoff. Because, let's be honest, people were arguing that they should make the playoff even if they lost to Tennessee this weekend. Which I'm gonna get to people arguing in just a second on this topic. But for Tennessee, they're now 4th in the SEC, but it's kind of a weird 4th in the SEC because behind them is Alabama and Ole Miss, both who have played one less SEC game, and both of whom I think will have better playoff chances than Tennessee does. I think Tennessee, of Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, and them, those 5 SEC teams, I think Tennessee is the one teetering the most and probably the most likely to miss the playoff. And if I had to bet right now, I'd say they will miss
they still have an ugly loss to Arkansas, and people are going to watch that Florida game and go, how did they shut you out in the first half?
I think there
are holes in the resume.
There's holes in the resume. I think they're the ones that are gonna get left out, ultimately, and they have UTEP and Vanderbilt, so
they can't really
impress the committee that much from here on out. Honestly, they can only disappoint from here on out if they stumble against Vanderbilt. But so yeah, that's kind of where I think Tennessee is at this point. And by the way, that doesn't mean it's a totally failed season. Somehow, which I did not expect this to come true. Somehow I was right on Tennessee at the start of the season. Without them, well, obviously the season isn't over yet, so I don't know for sure. But don't want to take my victory lap yet. But I was right on them not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to get to what Kirby said post game. And I'll just read the quote. He said, "I would welcome anybody in the committee to come down to this league and play in this environment."
Yeah.
Now, first off, pretty sure all the committee members are kind of old, so I don't think them playing would be very good.
Probably not.
Very smart for them to do health-wise.
Probably would have some more discussions like we had today.
Probably would. We'd probably have to...
Shout out to the CFL.
CLF. Shout out to the CFL too. Canadian football. Some of these guys will be playing the CFL, so shout out to the CFL.
I love Canada. Shout out.
Shout out Canada. But yes, no, this is not we don't need to have a concussion discussion again. But second, and I don't know where you stand on this, but I'm sick of the whining. The playoff expanded from 4 to 12 teams, in part the theory was this will reduce the whining from the 5 and 6, that always happens from the 5 and 6 about, but look at us, and it's always the SEC teams that seems to come a lot from the SEC teams. Let's just say that.
Them in the Big Ten, I would say.
Yeah, and it's like, Kirby, you didn't deserve to be ranked higher than you were. I don't care what ESPN says.
Yeah.
You didn't deserve to be ranked higher than 12th in the last rankings because you guys were coming off a loss and weren't that good. So.
Yeah, I mean, my thing too is like the SEC expanded, okay, to bring in Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And let me add something too. The only SEC team in the top 5 right now is Texas, who's not yet, in my personal SEC fan opinion, an SEC team yet. If you want to be an SEC team, you got to play a couple years. Texas also had one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen. So, you got flattened by Ole Miss last week. You did. And Ole Miss has not been the best team all season. They lost to Kentucky. They've struggled against Oklahoma. Like, they have. And, in Tennessee's defense, you shouldn't make the playoff. Who have you beat that would impress me on this list? Alabama is the only team on here that would impress me. And at the time, we talked about this.
We did not think that was impressive.
It wasn't that impressive. Yeah. And then, Milroe could do his thing, but beating, when your schedule, when you're losing to Arkansas, when you're barely beating Florida,
who outplayed you.
I mean, look, your shot, okay, if you don't lose to Arkansas and you only lose to Georgia, you're a playoff team. But guess what you did? You lost to Arkansas. And that's the way it goes.
And I'm not going to give you extra points because Arkansas is an SEC team.
No.
And this isn't even an anti-SEC rant because, the SEC is the best conference. And that's why they're going to have the most teams make it into the playoff. And they deserve to have that because those teams do play the best competition on a week-in, week-out basis. But that doesn't mean we have to ignore everything else and every other metric just because you play in the SEC.
Yep.
And by the way, Georgia, you're still going to make it. So it's fine.
Yep.
Speaking of a team that you just brought up,
an SEC team that won't make
actually
it.
2 SEC teams.
But
man. This, I think this is almost centered on one that won't make it, but might be a sneaky great team.
All right, we're subtly referencing here a game that the both of us were at on Saturday. And not only were we at, someone in this room who is not me was all over the Jumbotron in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium.
Probably your TV screens as well.
Not once.
Not once.
Not twice.
Definitely not twice.
Not 3 times.
Not 3 times.
I don't even think 4 times.
I
think you were on that screen 5 times, from what I saw. Posted up with Albert the Alligator.
Shout out.
Well, they were looking at him. Said OFI co-host, most handsome host. That's what it said.
Like the Rizzler at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically the same thing.
It's basically the same. It got a lot of pop.
Now, as much as I love to look at the Jumbotron and see my handsome co-host and his earrings, what I loved more, what I loved more is watching LSU lose on the field in front of me. To who?
The Florida Gators.
Who are now 5-5.
Maybe the best 5-5 team in the country.
Ooh.
As a matter of fact, I would say they are the best 5-5 team in the country.
Yeah.
And you gotta hand it to them, because this is one of the most unbelievable turnarounds that I can remember. This team was dead in the water. They started off the season with that Miami loss. They lost to Texas A&M 2 weeks later. Billy Napier was literally a dead man walking.
Yep.
Not literally, figuratively, actually. Not literally. It was figuratively a dead man walking in terms of the job security. It seemed like it was, just a foregone conclusion that he'd be fired.
Yeah.
Maybe not even at the end of the season, maybe halfway through the season.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they stuck with him. And matter of fact, they said we're giving him another year after the Tennessee game, after the Georgia game.
Yep.
And it's kind of insane when you think about it, what an 18, now 19-year-old true freshman superstar quarterback can do for your program. And that's what DJ Lagway has done. Yeah. DJ Lagway has not single-handedly, because I'm going to give credit to some more guys in a second.
Yeah.
But
offensively.
But I mean, not even off. Yeah. But
he's like 18.
He's changed. I think he's 19 now.
Baugh?
No.
I'm saying Jaden Baugh.
Jaden Baugh. Yeah,
like the other guys are true freshmen.
The true freshmen on this team as a whole have been unbelievable performers on the field. But what DJ Lagway has done for the culture of the team, and this team, the school's recruiting class for next year was not good. Mm-mm. And it's going to be good now. Guys are going to the 4-star quarterback who was committed to FSU flipped his commitment to Florida.
Yeah.
There were a ton of high-star recruits at the LSU game.
Yep. And
guess what? They saw what this Florida team can do, and they saw what can happen with DJ Lagway at the time, and they saw how the defensive improvement suddenly in the middle of the season has been unbelievable to watch.
It's unlike anything I've ever seen before.
It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And those recruits are going to want to be part of that. And you've got to give credit to Billy Napier for being a guy that seemingly the players love to play for and stuck around for and did not quit on whatsoever. Unlike, and I know you're going to get to this, some of the LSU players seem to have done on Brian Kelly. But I think that this Florida team at 5-5, if DJ Lagway, and this is no disrespect to Grant Mertz, who we've talked about before, but if DJ Lagway was this team's starter from day one, I think this would have been a totally different season.
Yep.
And if this team, this version of the 2024 Florida Gators was playing against Miami right now, they would win that game. If they were playing against Texas A&M, they win that game.
Really?
I think so. I think they would have beaten Georgia if Lagway wasn't hurt. They looked better when Lagway was playing before, in less than that first half. They looked better throughout the entire Tennessee game, and if it wasn't for Napier's questionable play calling at the time, probably could have won that game.
Yeah.
It was an overtime game. And so, Florida, I saw a tweet from Steve Pelizzato, I think, or whatever, saying should 5-5 Florida make the college football playoff. Now, I don't know about all of that.
What if they beat Ole Miss?
But they should end the year ranked. Like, you can.
Yeah.
They probably won't because of
they won't.
The amount of losses.
If they beat Ole Miss,
if they beat Ole Miss and then FSU and they're a 7-win team, but 20 still, they're definitely a top 20 team playing right now, I think.
Well, I want to say no, just because I was at games where Florida looked like one of the worst teams in the country this season.
This version.
Yeah, I know, but right now, this team had 7 sacks last night against LSU. LSU had 6 leading up to this game all season long. Yeah. They gave up 6. LSU had the ball for 41 minutes in this game.
A crazy stat.
Florida had this ball for 18 minutes. You know what that means? The offense is so different with Lagway, and Jaden Baugh is such a good running back that the explosiveness, the explosive plays, and then the defense getting off the field when they need to, the special teams giving them good field position.
And not just Jaden Baugh, by the way, in the backfield. That backfield is
really great with Montrell Johnson.
Montrell Johnson, is he the third back? Is he now third on the depth chart?
It's crazy.
It seems like it with Jacoby Johnson.
Yeah. And now, too, I mean, Lagway's not even as mobile as he would be because he's still dealing with a hamstring. Wait until he's fully mobile and they're running options. You know what I mean?
Wait until he's in his, not his first year of college.
Yeah. Oh, dude, next season, Lagway, I mean, has the real opportunity. If he has good personnel around him and they have good energy coming into the season, he
should be a Heisman contender.
The H word.
H word. He's saying right now.
So, look, you've heard us and especially me bash Florida. You've heard me and especially us and especially me bash Billy Napier. Look, I give credit where credit is due. But mind you, I was also in Austin, Texas last week and watched a team die on the field. They didn't have Lagway in, okay? I got that. So it is kind of hard for me to sit here.
But I think that's the key, though. I think Lagway is the key. I think
he is the key.
Like,
I don't deny that. I don't deny that. I mean, Lagway, the plays that Lagway made, Graham Mertz can't make those.
I mean, we just saw Texas, and we'll get to this in a second. Texas beat Arkansas, 20-10. It's not. I can't be convinced that Lagway couldn't put up a fight against Texas.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. And I think explosiveness is just such a huge component, not only of football but of college football. We're talking about one team that pulled themselves out. Florida has really nothing to play for, honestly, besides a bowl game.
A bowl game, pride. I mean, recruits.
Yeah, I mean, but not implications on everything. I have said this and I have ranted, and I'm putting the mic back too because I'm gonna get loud here, as I seemingly end up doing at some point every episode.
That's okay. Tee off.
I am so unbelievably just disappointed and disgusted. Is that a stretch?
No.
With Brian Kelly and LSU, and you lose 3 games. Look, let me back up here. Week 1. I mean, you lose to USC in a game that you should have won. You let them go down the field, and then you have a temper tantrum at the press conference. Okay, whack.
Not cool.
Then you start playing really well, and everyone's like, "Oh, maybe we picked you to go in and beat A&M." And you know what you were doing? Going in and beating A&M. And then what happened? They put in a backup quarterback that every play, all he did was run. He threw 2 passes in the second half, ran for 3 touchdowns, and ended up destroying you. Okay. The next week, then you go in a press conference, Brian Kelly, and you say jokingly, "Well, if I was a team, I would run the quarterback against us." Then you had a bye week. Yeah. You had 2 weeks to prepare for another mobile quarterback in Alabama in a team that wasn't looking great.
And you knew you were playing that mobile quarterback.
You knew that you were playing. Not a backup. Yeah, they're not going to pull a card out of it. You knew what was happening. Jalen Milroe, 12 carries, 185 yards. Are you kidding me? 4 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? Because you literally made the joke about it, and then you go out there and do it. And then you also crap on your own players and say, "Well, I don't know what these guys were doing for 2 weeks." You know what? You should. Why? Because you get paid $9.2 million this season to know what those guys are doing during the bye weeks. And clearly, you don't have the capability of pulling it off. And then, as you're about to lose your 3rd straight game, 3rd SEC game, you went from being a playoff team to, and possible SEC champion, to you're not ranked. And you shouldn't be. You have now your players. You're getting in the face of your players on the sideline. And look, I have no problem with that. And you've heard me say it before. Billy Napier needs more fire. That's why I love coaches with fire. I do not like disrespectful coaches. There's a line. There's a line between Nick Saban and Will Muschamp. Okay. Right. Will Muschamp is an asshole. Period. That guy will say whatever he wants to his players, and that's why he's not a head coach right now. That's why he's not even a defensive coordinator right now. That's why they put him in a box at the top of the stadium. Okay? Nick Saban knows the line.
Right.
Brian Kelly does not.
He doesn't.
Look, there's a clip on Twitter in the first half of him talking to his receiver. I believe it's Chris Hilton. You can watch that if you would like to. And you know what? He's saying it pretty emphatically. You can read his lips. And let me tell you, a grown man should not be speaking to another grown man like that, in my opinion. Maybe that's a stretch. I mean, but
someone 35 years younger
when you're trying to win a football game, game, you don't speak to your players with that attitude.
Right.
And then that bleeds over to later when Kyron Lacey comes off the field yelling at Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Look, I'm all for emotions in sports. You know me, I'm an emotional person. I'm vocal. Okay? And if I was a coach, I'm yelling at my players and I want them to be fired up at me. But there's a difference between,
They have to know that you're yelling at them for the right reasons and not.
You can't tell a guy he's uncoachable.
You can't keep throwing your players under the bus after every time you lose, and then yell at them and expect them to respond the right way, like Saban's guys responded. Yeah. Because they knew that Saban wasn't going to throw them under the bus, and that if he was yelling at them, he was yelling at them.
He knew what they were. They knew what he was trying to get.
And he developed that, the ability and the right to yell at them in the moments that we didn't see, in practices and off the field, and actually caring about these kids and their development as not just football players, but as people. And then through that gives you the right and the ability and the cachet to coach them hard and coach them the way that you feel best fit. But Brian Kelly, if you keep, smashing the table, pounding the table, or if you call out your players and you deflect the blame with the best of them, really, and never take accountability for your own issues, which have persisted throughout your head coaching career, then, Kyron Lacey's going to yell at you because, honestly, I don't know how much he respects you. And
I wouldn't respect you if you were my coach. And look, too, like, some people are saying that LSU doesn't have the personnel this season. Okay, maybe. But what are you saying then? That last year that Brian Kelly was just being inflated by Heisman Trophy winning Jaden Daniels? Maybe.
I don't think they had the personnel. Defensively, their defense sunk them last year.
Yeah, they sunk them last year. And then this season, their defense, they haven't looked great. They got destroyed by Alabama. Like one of the worst losses I've seen in a while. Yeah, and again, we're saying this now, not from the standpoint of, we hate you, period. We're saying this from the standpoint of people with faith in your team on multiple different occasions, because we do believe that Garrett Nussmeier is a good quarterback and you can't protect him. We do believe that you have top receivers and you treat them like that. So I'm very disappointed in LSU, and this is all I got to say about the rest of it. Next season and this offseason will be very interesting. If LSU does not have a good year next year, Brian Kelly should be fired, period. His contract goes through 2031. He has the second highest buyout in the SEC behind Kirby Smart. That is what I call bad business. Bad business. That's my take on it. And I believe that a lot of people in Baton Rouge are like it too. I don't think Brian Kelly's the right coach for LSU.
As a matter of fact, little personal anecdote. After the game, which obviously we were at the Swamp, like you mentioned, me and my friend are hungry, so we had to Publix for some pub subs. In line for pub subs, which, by the way, little side tangent, maybe the best pub sub I have ever had. And
I told you weren't going to get one, remember? Because the line was going to be too long.
That's right. You said I wasn't going to get one because the line was going to be too long. The line was like 20, 25 minutes. When I tell you they stuffed that pub sub, and it was
surprising.
Finishing that pub sub, like that final bite, I was watching Tennessee, Georgia. That final bite.
Did you go back out?
No, I didn't. One of the sadder moments. I really, really wanted to continue eating that pub sub, and I was out of pub sub. It was unreal. All the fixings too. All the fixings. It was phenomenal.
But you're in line.
What? No, yeah, I'm in line. I'm in line. Behind us is an LSU fan. You know what she says? She wants Brian Kelly gone. And she says it's been the same story from Notre Dame, and so LSU fans, it seems like you guys, or some of you guys at the very least, are done with Brian Kelly as well. And so, honestly, the hater shades are coming on for Brian Kelly because even some of your fans are out on you.
Most of your fans are out on you. It seems like you should read some LSU fan pages. You should look at Reddit's LSU and Brian Kelly. And Notre Dame people are chirping Brian Kelly.
They're having a blast.
Loving it because Notre Dame is going to make the playoff, most likely. Yeah, they've still got it. They have to play. Notre Dame has 2 games left, I think, that are moderate, but I think they should get in there. But Notre Dame is in. They have
USC.
Okay, Army, I think, actually has a shot against them. USC is terrible.
USC's fried.
But, look, and they should be. If I was a Notre Dame fan, I'd be making so much fun of you because you're a disappointment.
Moral of the story: Florida is better than LSU, proven on the field, and one team is on the upswing in the SEC, one team is on the downswing. But anyway, speaking of downswing,
oh God,
we've got some more crow to eat. Oh yeah, let's make this quick because honestly, this is my 5th time doing this. It's pretty exhausting. I'm kind of over it, and you, I'm sure, have not enjoyed it. Didn't enjoy it last week. No, you're not going to enjoy it this week. But yes, we both got our lock of the week. Wrong once again. Now, I'll go first because I feel like mine was a bad beat. Really,
yours was a bad beat.
A gut punch.
Mine was just.
I picked Texas. I'm not even gonna throw on the hater shades because I don't really have anything to hate on.
Yeah.
This was a bad beat, and I can't even blame Texas for what.
Yeah.
I can blame Texas for not beating Arkansas by more. Sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
But I can't blame Texas for they should have, but for what they did, which caused the 12.5-point spread, which Texas was favored, and I picked them to cover, to not hit, to not cover, and they were up 20-10. With under 2 minutes left, or just at 2 minutes left, and they got the first down at Arkansas's 27-yard line, and Arkansas was out of timeouts, which means you know what Texas could do, and obviously would do, because anything else would be stupid, unless you're trying to help me, get another lock win. They kneeled it out. They kneeled out the clock, and yeah, so I can't. It hurts, but I can't. What am I going to do? They made the smart, the correct, that was the only option, the only football play they could have done. Maybe they could have kicked the field goal with 3 seconds left, but I think that would have been controversial or whatever. So
Texas with a lot of punts in this game.
A lot of punts. Just
not even a turnover. Not one turnover. Just all punts. 2 touchdowns, 1 field goal, the rest all punts.
Yeah, well, I'm used to it at this point, so.
What's your record now?
I'm 3-5 now.
Oh,
we'll get back to it.
You got 2 weeks.
I got 2 weeks to get back to 500, and really, we'll continue this for bowl games in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, still have an opportunity to get.
Well, but I feel like the regular season is a cutoff, though.
Yeah.
But we'll.
Let's do bowl games. Let's do bowl games.
Like, what do you mean bowl games? Like, I'm not about to go to the Valero Bowl or the Cheez-It Bowl.
I'm
not gonna bet the spreads on the Cheez-It Bowl.
You're right. That's
awful, because then you're gonna Purdue beating
that's low.
Michigan or some garbage.
That's low. We can just cut off regular season. I have two more weeks.
I got this.
I just need to get 500.
I will be 500. Period. Right?
You'll be above 500.
Yeah, above 500. But God, man, this sucks because I was so committed to going perfect, and I have a serious bet on the line. If I lose out this season, I'm getting studded up.
You do have.
I am.
Yeah, you have two more games
before I go to New York in December. Let's show. Go to New York in December.
Oh, really? Okay, peace. Well, but you have 2 more games. You got to go one of them right. You got to go 50%, or you're joining the club.
This is not chill. Look, my game. I was very hesitant about it, and I said it a bunch of times. I almost went Boise State, San Jose State. 1, that's kind of boring, but 2, who knows anything about San Jose State, anyways? But 2, I was like, okay. Give me Oregon at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like, come on. What was it? 13.5. They needed to win by 2 touchdowns. I think it was 13.5.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was -14.
Okay.
So I needed 2 touchdowns, which I felt was going to be fine and simple and
Oregon
easy.
was rolling.
And man, Wisconsin lost to Iowa 42-10 the game prior to that, and I said okay, they're getting the ball, they're doing better. This is what I can tell you what the story of the game is. In the first half, Oregon in the first quarter, Oregon red zone, field goal, red zone again, interception.
Yeah.
24-yard line, basically the red zone, field goal. Okay, so they can't get anything going. Then right before halftime, Wisconsin, Oregon's kind of not napping on the field, but they're not really in it. They're not locked in.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin, it's a ball. They throw a ball over the top. They hit a deep pass, caught. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now, man. And then a penalty, and then all of a sudden, touchdown. Now Wisconsin's winning 10-6 at halftime. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Now Oregon's trailed at halftime before.
Right.
And they come back and won, and they did that again. But, man, they just could not get it going. They just could not get the offense there. They couldn't get the separation there. They couldn't, dude, Oregon didn't score a touchdown until the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Which is astounding. And that's not what I expected, and that's not what should have happened. I mean, look, boring game, stupid game, in my opinion. Because 16-13, boring game, Wisconsin scored 3 points in the second half. man, like, that just stinks, man. It just stinks. And really, in my opinion, if Oregon gets one of those touchdowns in the first quarter, that's a different game.
Right.
They have way more steam. Wisconsin's not playing. Like, I don't know. It hurts. It hurts. I mean, what am I supposed to say about it? Like, Oregon, I think, is still fine.
Yeah, they're fine.
They're gonna make the championship game for Big Ten. And I just had to sit here and eat that loss.
You picked them the 1 week they didn't roll.
1 week that they didn't. Well, not the only week they haven't rolled.
Right, but in a while.
I mean,
yeah. 1 week in a while.
So, I really hope I win because I don't. He wanted to get his ears pierced before.
I'm actually very happy about it.
I don't.
I think you'd enjoy it.
I'd wear some crazy ones too, man. I'd probably get some lizards on them, like dangling lizards or some wild stuff.
Well, you gotta get there before. You gotta wait a few months. Why? Get the studs, and you can start going crazy with stuff.
Oh, you're an expert now?
I mean, that's what I've been told.
Really?
Yeah, you can't just go.
What are you looking into getting some wild stuff?
I don't know about wild stuff, but I'm gonna change it up. It's just not gonna be studs all the time.
Oh, I got a good. We haven't done punishments but like I got a good punishment idea for you.
Okay.
If you lose your not next to, whatever, to some degree by losing one of the next weeks, if you do. If you don't, then I'm good. But if you lose one of the next weeks, I'm going to buy you earrings of, like, the team logo that, like, lost it for you. You're going to walk around with, like, I don't know, something.
I'm cool with that. I won't be able to do it for, like, 3 more months or, like, two more. Yeah.
But can't you just get this and then get it?
No, I can't take these out for, like, you can't take them out for, like, 3.5 months or whatever.
You should have got gauges.
Gauges?
You know, the huge ones. Those big circles where people have the loopy ass ears.
Yeah, those are weird. I don't know.
Those are disgusting. If anyone that watches our channel has gauges, don't watch our channel.
No, keep watching our channel. But, we just don't like you.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
They're probably like, yeah, we don't like you either. We studs. Let's get it.
Anyways, another tough week, basically. This is the moral of the story. That's okay, because you know what? We always bounce back with positive energy.
This is true. Besides the ones where we come in here and we're exhausted.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. But it won't happen on. You know what? Didn't happen today.
No.
It's not gonna happen on Friday. It's not gonna happen the week after.
Friday's gonna be fun.
Friday's gonna be fun. Friday's gonna be
Indiana, Ohio State.
That's gonna be. I'm excited.
Give me the Hoosiers. Where is that? At Ohio State or at Indiana? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're not there
Friday
yet.
We don't want to give anything away yet.
We're excited. Very excited.
Very excited.
Man, we only have a couple regular season episodes left.
And then it's playoff time.
And those will be fun.
Yeah.
And then it's morph time.
Then it's morph time. Expansion time.
We're caterpillars right now. I better be butterfly.
We are. What's the in-between one? Cocoon.
Our cocoon is
cocooning.
Like New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might probably have to take a couple breaks over like winter break.
Something like that. Yeah, true. That's okay. We're not there yet.
You can do solo, dude. Solo episode. Okay, we're talking about nothing. We're talking about nothing. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another great episode. Also, we're going to start, I know I said this last time and I didn't do it, but we are going to start, I don't even know if anyone's listening to it right now. They're probably like, you guys are talking about lizard earrings. I'm not listening to this anymore. We're going to start splicing clips and putting out 5 to 10 minute YouTube clips. Yeah.
In addition to the TikTok, the TikToks, the Instagram Reels, the YouTube Shorts, all that goes.
So keep your eyes open for that, because I know it's a lot. We try to cut these shorter. And we just yapping.
You know what? We're too passionate about it.
We're too passionate about it, dude. We're too obsessed with the game.
And that's not a bad thing.
When you get me talking about Brian Kelly, dude, I could talk about him for 45 minutes. I wrote an article about him.
Maybe we have to do that one day. 45-minute Brian Kelly
Thumbs
episode.
down.
He gets fired. If he gets fired, we'll do a 45-minute Brian Kelly episode. How about that?
Deal. Shout out to the CLF. Shout out to the CFL. Shout out to Colorado.
Shout out to Colorado. Shout out to Shador.
Shout out to
perfect timing. Peaking at the perfect time.
Yes. Shout out to DJ Lagway.
Shout out to DJ Lagway. The biggest shout out of the week to DJ Lagway for literally changing a program.
Yeah.
As a true freshman.
And shout out to Eitan for getting all over that Jumbotron. If you missed it, I'm so sorry.
I'm sure you can find it. I'm a celebrity now, so.
Yeah. All right. Catch you guys on Friday.
See you.